top secret, undisclosed location. It's where this show was originally intended to emanate. Unfortunately, that off-the-grid location can no longer be found due to unforeseen issues. With the whole undisclosed part, instead we proudly bring you the Paranormal Power Twins, the keepers of the secrets, the looters of the lunacy, the wranglers of the weird, the ministers of the macabre, the secrets of the spirits, the...
John.
Hold on, I'm almost...
John, honey, it's time.
Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your host, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we have a fun-filled, exciting, wonderful show for you guys today. We're going to do your favorite thing. We're going to tell you about the news and lots of it. What happened is we have a load of news. We actually went 2 days late on doing the show this week. And pretty much the reason for that was because we wanted to wait for the big NASA announcement.
Yes. That whole press conference they had at 1. I watched that.
Exactly. So we're actually recording this on the day of that announcement on Wednesday, and we're wanting to, the whole thing, we normally record these on Monday, so we really just wanted to wait and see, if they were going to tell the truth or not. And
see what kind of big announcement they had.
See what kind of hobbabaloo they were going to feed us and everything.
It was actually pretty interesting.
You know what? It really was. I went back and watched it afterwards, and the first 3 minutes and 30 some seconds, I heard all I needed to hear because
that's generally the way it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they told me, well, we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get
into that. So let's talk about other stuff. There's
other
a lot of
weird things that have been going on.
As I look at the scratches on my arm.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
It's very strange.
It is very strange. How much weird stuff can we fit into a week worth of time?
I mean, it seems like it's going for a record this week.
I mean, there's honestly too much to even...
I should have looked. Is there some kind of weird space thing going on? Some kind of
I
celestial
don't know.
anomaly?
Look, I can't say names on this, guys.
Okay.
I can't say names or anything on this, but let me tell you this, okay? So we have a friend who is in a field of first responder type people.
Right.
And he told me in his little section of the planet that they had 4 or 5 calls the other day, which would be Monday. They had 4 or 5 calls, and all of the calls. Okay, let's just say 4.
Okay.
People say 4 or 5. It's probably 4.
It's
right?
probably 4. Yeah.
So they had 4 calls, and all 4 calls were people that wrecked, but they were going the opposite way of the way they intended to go.
Yeah. Didn't he say that they had no idea where they were going?
Yeah, they had no idea. What is that about?
I don't know. 4 in the same day. I mean, 1 is weird enough.
1 is weird enough.
Yeah.
You know how I'm about patterns.
Right.
So you have 4, 5. I mean, and the weird thing is the reason he didn't know 4 or 5 before anybody starts trolling me on this is because they had 40 some calls.
Yeah. He said it was super busy.
Yeah, and this is not New York City we're talking about.
No.
This is a little rural community. And they don't normally have, I don't know what their normal call rate is. I mean, but I
would assume it's not
40. I can only assume by the fact that he goes, we had 40 calls, that it's normally 10. You know what I mean?
Right.
People don't normally volunteer information of stuff that's normal. It's like, Stacey, I brushed my teeth. I mean, it's not something you normally talk about.
That's true.
So,
that is true.
Yeah, just weird stuff. And that's not even on the compass of, oh my God, weird. So I'm just going to tell you guys, man, one of the weirdest things ever to happen to John and Stacey happened this past week. And we were still not got to the thing that happened tonight. So a little bit weird here on the presentation of this show. But hey, this is a really cool edition of the Paranormal Sideshow. This is going to be mostly, all news.
Yeah, it's not going to be a main attraction. It's just going to be news.
Right, just because we had so much.
Yes.
The title of the episode is obviously it's NASA's fault because it is. And, so let me just tell you the weird thing that happened this past week. All right. So this past week, I was, Stacey and I obviously sleep in bed together. Spoiler.
Yeah.
So we were sleeping And I heard, and we've talked about this before on the show. I talked about one of my paranormal experiences sometimes involve I'm almost asleep and I hear a bang somewhere or a boom, right? Well, this happened, and it was more on the other end of it, like the waking up side of things. I was, you go over an hour or so and you're starting to wake up. And I heard a bang. And then I heard, and I didn't put it over because it happens all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It just happens all the time. So I heard another bang. And once again, let me go ahead and state once again, this house is 170 years old, I think.
I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
It's over 100 years old.
Yeah. It's well over 100 years old.
Yeah.
1850s, 1847 to 1852. It's still up for debate which one it is. Anyway, so, both those things happened, and it was kind of weird. I mean, that's just kind of alarming, the second one especially. But what got me on top of that was where we're at, the sun comes up very bright, very, very early, and I started smelling smoke. So not really smoke as much as burning plastic.
Yeah, it just smelled like something was, I don't know,
right,
burning
nasty.
and being gross. Yeah.
It was that kind of headache smell. The one that gives you a headache.
Yes,
absolutely. Your vacuum cleaners went too long. It's burning up. That kind of smell.
Yes.
So we're smelling this. I'm smelling this to start with, and that's alarming. I'd heard a couple of bangs, and it was alarming. And we've documented stuff that, happens from time to time with me on here. And I may or may not have heard something say, check the window. So everything went frantic from that moment. And now I'm talking to Stacy, and Stacy is she is the general of this home. So she knows every nook, every cranny of this home. And she's zooming around like the Flash. I mean, it's boom, this room, check the baby, check Roger, check, going through all this stuff. And she's like, I can't find anything. She's getting kind of frantic because she's honestly, and I mean this in a loving way, she's my bloodhound. She comes in there, she's like, it's in here. I know it's in here. It's your pillow. And it was my freaking pillow. So my pillow smelled like it was on fire, but it wasn't on fire. Okay. And I was like, and I mentioned the window thing, cause I was told check the window, and she pulls back our curtains, and the window behind our bed, over top our bed, is cracked all the way across on the bottom and cracked all the way across on the top. And these are new windows. Let me just state, the house is completely remodeled. It's all brand new, the newest of everything. And new carpets, new walls, new everything. And so it's cracked all the way across on the top, all the way across on the bottom. And I'm thinking, my God, that must be it. But we still smelled the smell, right? So Stacy was not satisfied. So she decided she wanted to look up in the attic, which used to be a walkable floor, but because of remodeling, this is a very large house, and it doesn't need to be that big. So it's all insulation upstairs now in our attic.
Yeah, and that really helps.
Yeah, so
in the winter.
So she goes up in the attic. It's one of our pull down traditional doors. You pull it down, and the ladder comes down, and you go up the ladder, and there is a window on each side of the house from where it was originally. And so she goes up the ladder, and the window is open. So, and there's no excuse for that. We've looked at that window, I would guess 50 times. And every time you pulled into the house, you're looking at the window as well.
Yeah, and it was open like 3 inches.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't just a little tiny crack. It was like, it was freezing up there.
Right. So here's where it gets interesting. Okay, so we respect everybody. We respect everybody's opinions. We never poo-poo on anyone for, what your opinions are or what you tell us happened to you. We listen to it objectively. We don't make fun of you afterwards. If we make fun of you, we make fun of you with you. That's just how we are. But so the weird thing, the weirdest thing is she found that. She's like, John, the window's open. And she goes up there, she closes it because she's freaking, like I said.
That was fun because there's no floor. I had to throw boards down and tiptoe across to the window. I was so scared.
Right. But the safer of the two of us to do that.
Yeah, it was definitely me.
It was definitely her. So anyway, she goes up there, she closes it, right? Well, where we live, it's been bitterly cold. We had 61 inches of snow in the immediate area. So it's always propane, and the furnace is always working on, double time, and we're spending a lot of money and hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Right.
And the way it has been, it was driving her insane because it was every couple of weeks.
Well, it was just, we were here for part of the winter last year when we moved here. It was middle of the winter. And, we didn't use it as fast as we were using it. It was driving me nuts because we actually lowered the temperature in the house.
Right.
And I felt like everything was exactly the same. We weren't using too much of this. We weren't using too much hot water. And it was driving me crazy. I couldn't figure out why.
Right.
I had to keep buying it.
Yeah, we lowered everything. We didn't wash dishes as much. We weren't taking as many showers. We weren't washing clothes as much.
Well, we were taking showers.
Yeah. But, you know what I mean.
Right.
We were being conscientious of it. And normally when you focus on something, it goes down.
Right.
And that wasn't happening. So, that's where you were going nuts. And so what happened is, and I didn't know this till after the fact, actually days and days after the fact, because she didn't tell me this part. She was explaining this to one of our friends on the phone. And this is when she told them that she had been actually going around the house, because she kind of goes around the house talking out loud, not really to herself, she says, but just out loud.
Yes.
And, she had been saying, we really need to get this heat to come down, we really need to get the
I was basically asking the universe why we were spending so much money on propane. I just, if you ever picture somebody walking around going, why is this like that? That was me.
Yeah.
I mean, out loud in the house. When it was driving me crazy, I was checking the propane every day. And I was like, why? Why is this happening? I need to figure this out now. Somebody needs to tell me.
Right. And we follow every old superstition. I'll call it superstition. We follow every old respect thing that you would do for people on the other side. Elementals, whatever, we have little things we leave out. Stacy leaves a glass of tea. She makes a glass of tea for herself every morning and a glass of tea for other people every morning, and doesn't touch it afterwards, and just little things like that, because we're weird, deal with it. And we're proud of it. But, she went around the house asking for this. Well, I don't know exactly what happened, and I can't tell you it's a fact. All I can do is present you the evidence as it occurred. And everything that happened stopped after she found that. So she found that upstairs, and there was no bangs, and the smell of burning went away, never to have returned. It's never returned. It had never happened before. So she closed that, and I will say that our propane is barely going down at all now.
Yeah, it's back to normal.
Yeah.
Where it was. And I will add also that the last time I ordered propane, I got a better price on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wasn't even expecting that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, like a huge discount.
So it seems, this is what I was saying, it seems to me like that whole episode, because that's how things happen with us. That whole episode with the cracked window and the burning smell thing, that was all just to get me in the attic.
Right.
So I could find the window that was open.
That was the only way to get you there.
Yes.
And that's so cool, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And we always talk about, after doing this for so long, we have discovered, and anybody who has done this for a long time, and by done this, I mean been in the paranormal.
Right.
Really been in the paranormal.
Yeah.
Investigated, immersed yourself,
studied, all that kind of stuff.
Respected, talk to others. That's what I mean. Just, not as much even investigating as just really being in it and noticing everything around you. That's a big part of it when you wake up. And I mean that in every sense of the term, even conspiracy wise and all that. When you wake up and you look around and see things for what they really are. And,
right.
So very cool. It's happened to us countless times. So many stories.
So when we tell you that our lives are a little bit weird, that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we laugh about it because most people, a couple of bangs that break your window and then, a burning smell out of nowhere that leads you to an open window, that would be it. They would be gone, right?
I guess so.
About 2 hours ago, I got 2 deep scratches on my arm right in front of me. And, we're not even sweating it. It's just something that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it happened while you were watching.
Yeah, it's just something that happens. And so on to cool stories. One more cool story here. This one's kind of crazy. So where we're at now, and I've joked about this before, wherever we've lived, I could always tell where Stacy was. Like I could always tell where the proximity of the house was as I would be coming home and I would see the hundreds of crows flying over the house. Okay.
Right.
So it's always been that way. But so we've always had a really close relationship with crows and ravens. And there's ravens up here, like not really a whole lot. I mean, you don't see them.
No, in our neighborhood, there's like 2 or 3 that come around
Right.
during the day. And I actually don't put anything out for them here because
Right.
our houses are so close to the other houses. I don't
Right.
want to, annoy the neighbors, I guess.
So tonight we had to run to the store, and which is across the street basically from our neighborhood. And we were on our way back, and when we come, we have to pass a graveyard, a huge graveyard, on the way up and the way back. Mm-hmm. So on the way back, we're always looking for everything. And oddly enough, Stacy we went to this little store we don't usually go to, so we could go fast instead of like going to Walmart to get what we needed to get.
Right.
She was in there for 25 minutes.
It was so ridiculous.
And 20 minutes was in line. And
it's like every single line had 4 people in it. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like it.
So there's no reason for that, really.
No, and it was like it was like not even barely 5 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So it's not like everybody got off work and they were now grocery shopping. I mean, It was unusual.
Yeah, it was very strange. So we kind of put it over a little bit. Like, wow, that took a long time. And she told me the story, and we were driving back up, and so we turn the corner and we're coming down through the graveyard. We're almost to the graveyard. And I see this large, you know what? I don't want to exaggerate it, but I've seen hundreds of ravens in the sky. And it's not something that you see in this neighborhood. In fact, I haven't seen this since I've been in this area in Maine. And I travel the state every day, the entire state I travel. So, I don't really see this. And so I seen all these ravens, and we stopped because we just had to. Mm-hmm. And in the graveyard, there was hundreds and hundreds more of these birds, all in a tightly knit circle that if you were just to look at it from above, it would look like I don't know, maybe 100 feet across.
I mean, it was pretty big. It's hard to judge.
It was large.
Right.
It was large. I would say, to be honest, I would say about 30 yards of each direction. Mm-hmm. And it was just a circle, and they were so close together, it just looked like black, like darkness, just darkness. And they were also in the trees, and the weird thing was they were flying away, and they were
back.
Talking.
Yeah, and making weird sounds.
And it was that weird, creepy raven sound that sounds too much like a human that you don't want to hear, like,
Yeah, we actually got out of the car, and John took a little video, and we were standing
it's hilarious.
We were standing underneath the trees, and they were flying back and forth in the trees, and eventually it got to the point where John was like, this is feeling kind of like the birds. And I was like, yeah, I feel like it's going to be. We should probably... So we got back in the car.
Yeah, I made the joke, and she said, yeah, it feels like it might turn into that, and
because they were right over our heads.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? If that does turn into that, we're toast.
Yeah, there were so many.
Yeah, it was ominous,
and it was weird because it's in the cemetery, but there's so much snow on the ground that the headstones are just barely peeking out of the snow, like some of them are.
Right.
So it's hard to tell. I think we should actually post that video on YouTube, and then I'll put it on the website.
Yeah, it's really strange
because it's really, really strange, and hundreds. You're not exaggerating. Hundreds and hundreds, and they were there for a long time.
Yeah, we actually left them there. There was other cars stopping. There was 3 cars in total stopped the whole time that we were stopped.
Yeah,
and
that's generally how you can tell when something's not normal for your area.
Right.
When the other people stop too.
Right. Especially Mainers.
Yeah, because they don't put anything over.
No, they'll like, oh, it's 3 feet of snow. That ain't nothing there, and just drive on, But no, it's just our life. And that's why we like to share it with you guys.
Yes.
We really, it's our privilege and our honor to share it with you guys. We love it. And one more thing, we've been talking about this other project that we've got going, and man, is that thing really taking off. Mm-hmm. We're having the weekly conference calls and everything. So a lot of cool stuff happening, and we're really close to getting some really cool news out there. We'll put it that way. I'm so excited. It's
Me too.
A lot of stuff going on, and I know they're listening. So, I like to just throw something out there for the other mysterious people out there. But yeah, just really excited about everything going on. And I will go through all this again for you. ParanormalSideshow.com. That's your address to go find everything about ravens and burning houses. Facebook.com/Paranormal Sideshow. On the Twitter, it's @Sideshow97. On Instagram, Hot damn. It's John and Stacey Edwards. And on YouTube, just search Paranormal Sideshow. Also search our old show, The Third Side, for some kicks and some fun, because there's a lot of cool stuff on there. In fact, we just made our Third Side tours of the studio that we did a long time ago. It was like a preview show. It's probably my favorite thing we did on the whole thing.
Oh yeah, I liked it.
You know, the preview show, I would go to the Third Side YouTube, look up Third Side Paranormal, and go to our YouTube and just watch that preview show. It's really funny. And don't forget, on the Paranormal Sideshow YouTube, we also have a few videos that Stacy's put up, and we have the Major Graham Mansion documentary in its entirety and the Kingsport Grocery Company documentary in its entirety. So if you ever want to see us, in action,
there's actually some cool EVPs we put up, to some videos with some EVPs that we've not played on the show or anything. So
right,
cool.
Good place to go and check out. But for now, I think it's about time for some news.
All right, so let's get into this huge stack of news we have here.
Stack of news.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm supposed to say let's.
All right, so of course the first thing we're going to talk about is the NASA announcement, since that's the reason that the show was delayed a couple days. We were waiting for this big "we found aliens" announcement, which it wasn't going to be that.
No, I was actually really excited about what the announcement was.
Yes.
I thought it was going to be something about Uranus. And
Well, no, they did say ahead of time. I mean, everybody knew ahead of time it was about something about exoplanets,
right,
but nobody knew exactly what it was. And I know that you're really interested in that. So if you didn't have a chance to see it today or see an article, what it was is they have found at least 7 Earth-sized planets that orbit the same star,
right,
outside of our solar system.
And it's actually like relatively next door.
Yeah,
as far as space
it's about
goes.
40 light years away,
right,
which is not that far away.
Right.
And this is actually the first time they found this many planets around the same star. And it's also rare because the planets are all similar to size to the Earth, and they're all fairly temperate climates. And I think out of the 7, well, first let's say the star that they found, it's an ultra cool dwarf star. They call it TRAPPIST-1.
Right.
And out of the 7 planets that are orbiting this star, 3 of them are in the star's habitable zone. So they feel like those 3 planets are very, very likely to have water.
Right.
And other things that could have life on them.
Right. And the very fact that they have water, well, very likely to have water.
Right.
In the Goldilocks zone, they're very likely to have life, because if you have life, I mean, if you have water and light, you probably have life.
Right. And, what they were talking about today, and they were talking about, now this star is smaller than ours, I think, and the planets are all very close to it, but their proximity to that star allows them to have temperatures that are very similar to ours. Not simpler, I don't know how that would work. But they also said that the planets are so close to each other that if you were on the surface of one of the planets, you would be able to see the next planet, like it would look like the moon, bigger than the moon that we see now. So it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. You know what it is, right?
What's that?
It's Tamriel.
I actually thought about that when they were talking. As funny as that.
They have found Nern. They found Skyrim.
Possibly. Well, it says that if you start closest to the star and move out, the planets have orbits that are like from 1.5 Earth days to about 13 Earth days.
Right.
So, they orbit pretty quickly. And it says if you stood on one of the planets, you would receive 200 times less light than you get from the sun, but you'd still be just as warm because of how close it is.
Right.
So, I mean, they know like tons of stuff about these things already. And they really want to, going forward, they really, really want to keep studying it. I think they said in 2018 that James Webb Space Telescope is going to launch, and it's going to be positioned like 1 million miles from Earth, but it will give them a better view of this particular system.
Right. Yeah. It's really amazing. And, the last few years with all, every year we go leaps and bounds above the previous year in technology. It's really amazing where we've come from, in just a very short time. We weren't even sure there was a planet that was in the habitable zone of anywhere,
of any star.
And now this keeps happening. They found hundreds of exoplanets, and I mean they found a lot of stuff. This is a huge discovery.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just because it's so precise. And I love the fact that that it's like that, and it just gives your thought. And the cool thing is, if you listen to the NASA announcement, which you can find pretty much anywhere,
right?
And I'm sure you'll link to it on the sideshow.com. If you listen to even the first 3 minutes and 30 seconds, what I was joking about is the director. He's talking, and he's saying, of course, what we really are all excited about is the possibility of finding life. Outside of our solar system, right?
Right.
And I think that's really cool that in the first 3 minutes they talk about that.
They address that.
Yeah. What makes this so exciting is the possibility of finding life.
Right.
It's a bit, because they know more than what they say.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's
sure.
It's just one of those things. It's just very cool, though. I don't care if they're slowly laying it out for us.
As long as they're laying it out.
As long as they're laying it out.
Yeah. Well, they were talking about, I thought it was interesting how they, if you watch it, they describe how they figured out about all these different things about these planets and what process they use. But, going forward, I think their next step is to try and figure out what kind of atmosphere is around each of the planets. And, of course, trying to find out if they have liquid water, which it seems very likely. One thing I thought was interesting is I'm pretty sure they said that when the planets orbit, that they don't spin, like one side of the planet stays towards the star at all times. So I thought that was pretty cool. They all have a dark side.
It is. It is. I mean, it's just like a fantasy movie waiting to happen.
It really is.
The people from the ice side, fighting the people from the bright side. So,
well, I know I read this one article, and it said, it was telling you about how close the planets were. And it said that the planets were so close to each other and the star that there are, all 7 of the planets are within a space 5 times smaller than the distance of Mercury from our sun.
Wow.
That's how close they are.
Jeez.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
It's just if you sit and imagine that stuff, it's just wonderful. So.
Well, I thought it was cool because sometimes when NASA makes announcements, you get all hopped up and then it's not really anything. But this one's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. And they answered questions from people on social media.
Which is also not something they normally do.
No, and it said that they were going to do a Reddit thing, but I didn't get back on there for that because that was later in the day.
It was like #AskNASA.
Yeah.
Which,
And they did answer some questions. I didn't get to see the very end of it.
Can you imagine the questions they got? I mean, really.
The ones they had to gloss over and not use.
It sucks to work for NASA, right? The low-level person has to monitor the Twitter.
Right.
That person's job sucks because it's nothing but people like us.
Right. Asking provocative questions that they can't answer.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's do another story that's kind of space related. And this is about what they found on Ceres.
Okay.
Recently.
Boy, we've talked about Ceres quite a bit.
We have talked about Ceres quite a bit. It's been in the news a lot because at first it was the bright spots, which I don't think we ever got a definitive answer on. I think they finally just said they just settled on ice or something.
That goes back to Haunted South. That's not just the third side. That goes back all the way to Haunted South when you were covering Ceres every week. Yeah,
absolutely. And they also found an ice volcano, a likely ice volcano. So that was in the news for that. And there's, they still had the Dawn. I think it was the Dawn spacecraft. It was orbiting it and trying to get thing. Well, now they have spotted organic molecules, which means that Ceres actually has the building blocks for life.
Wow.
On Ceres. And they're pretty sure that these organic molecules that they found are actually native to Ceres. They didn't get there because a meteor smashed in or they weren't brought some other thing. They actually are from Ceres.
Wow.
So that's huge. That's pretty huge. Now, it's not actual life, but it's like
but it's life.
It's like what is there that could possibly
eventually become life.
Eventually become
so
life. Yeah.
They found the ice volcano. They haven't found the ice king yet, though.
No, I don't. He must be hiding inside somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know, but yeah, Ceres is it's gonna keep being in the news.
Well,
it's determined.
You know me. I firmly believe that nobody comes up with anything that they're not supposed to. Like, I've talked to before, somewhere inside of me, I believe Lord of the Rings is something that happened on this earth, long ago. And
in another lifetime.
And it just sort of came to him. Star Wars is something that just sort of came to George Lucas, that I love to think like that. So maybe this is the Adventure Time world.
Perhaps.
That would be great.
Well, I still want someone to tell me what those ice spots were in the bottom of the craters. They never did.
Well,
Never did have a definitive answer for that.
Hashtag Ask NASA.
It'd be a little off the subject. I don't know if they would go with that, but all right. So let's talk about this story. This is a pretty fun story. This is about the European Space Agency. And they've been kind of working towards manned lunar missions. They've already been talking about this and how they want to start doing this in 2020, possibly work with other nations. They've actually developed a way to 3D print a lunar base using the materials on the moon. Like
Wow.
they've figured out how it can be done. I don't know that they're completely there yet, but they've got a working concept and they're actually doing it. So apparently the European Space Agency has an artist in residence. And he actually came out and announced that he wants to design a moon temple. And he's done all the drawings and all the artist rendering for this, right? And he wants it to be like a non-religious just temple for all the people that live in the moon lunar city or whatever.
Right.
That they can go. And it's going to be a huge dome placed on top of a crater with a telescope in it. And you can actually see the Earth from it so often, like for 2 weeks, every so often.
So this guy is stoned out of his mind.
I guess so. Does NASA have an artist in residence, you think?
I don't know.
The European Space Agency does.
Come on, it's just like the cars. I mean, we've got the muscle cars and they've got the finely tuned, they don't have to use nearly as much as we do.
That's really funny. Well, I thought that the most interesting part of the story was about the lunar base that they could 3D print.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that's pretty cool, where they can actually use the lunar surface.
3D printing is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
The things that are happening, just like with space, the technology we've got, it's crazy how where we've come to in such a short time. I mean, 20 years ago, that's science fiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, it's just nuts.
Well, I thought that was kind of funny and interesting at the same time, because that's actually a project that is possible, I think. It's not like something that people announce and you're like, how's that going to happen?
Blink of an eye.
Speaking of something people announced that, this is a story about the United Arab Emirates. Okay. And they have decided that they are going to, Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, they have money.
Yeah, they have enough money to do whatever they want.
So much money right now. So they have decided, and they announced this at the World Government Summit in Dubai, which happened recently.
Sounds like a shady place to be.
That their goal is to build the first city on Mars. And the date that they gave is 2117.
Wow.
So they say that it's a long-term plan.
Is it?
It is. Over the next 100 years. But 100 years from now, they want to have a city on Mars. I mean, you got to have goals, right?
I might have to check my facts.
Right.
But I wonder if there was anything that was planned out 100 years ago that is just now following through.
I have no.
Because what you have to do, right? You have to calculate. We were just talking about how we are every year probably increasing 10, 15% over the year before.
Right.
In technology. Okay. So just doing simple math, we should be able to, in 50 years, be far beyond, travel to Mars. And I really think so. I mean, I think that the breakthroughs we're making, that we're going to have that all figured out.
Yeah, I would think so.
And no one's going to follow through with this. This is going to be something, a bunch of old farts.
The thing about this is they actually do have a plan. They have a concept city and everything. But their first step is they don't actually have a science program, really, a space program. So their first step that they're doing is they are going to try and make space travel appeal to the young people. They're going to put new courses and sciences set up in the universities. They're really focusing on the generation that's actually going to be able to pull this off, I guess,
right.
Or the next generation. And they're also going to create an Emirati scientific team that would include international scientists and things like that. So they've really thought it out.
Right.
They've got a plan. They haven't made it an unrealistic goal. They don't say they're going to do it in 20 years or whatever. They've given themselves a long time.
But it's kind of the other end of things. It's like
everybody that's decided they're going to do this is not going to be around in 100 years.
It's sir, I'm going to straighten this. I'm going to straighten this district out. It's going to take 35 years, but we're going to eventually make our numbers. We're going to get back into black.
Well, I mean, good for them for thinking ahead, I suppose.
You know what? 115 years from now, I'm going to become president. There you go.
Wow, you'll be like the oldest president. I think you'd be too old to be president. Is there an age limit on that?
I don't think there's an age limit. I know
You have to be a certain age to be president, but 115 years from now, I don't know.
I'll have 3D printed organs.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Well,
I'm the kind of person they want to keep around.
it's funny you should say something about staying around. This next story.
Funny.
Yeah. Well, I put this story in here because we were just talking about the conference in Dubai. And it just so happens Elon Musk from Tesla and the SpaceX CEO, he was at the World Government Summit in Dubai, and he was talking. And he was
Just so happens.
Yeah, he was actually in Dubai because they were launching Tesla in Dubai. I guess there's a lot of rich people there who can sell Teslas. So anyway, he was making a speech, and during his speech, he told the audience that that humans eventually are going to have to merge with machines, or that they're going to become irrelevant.
Wow.
When AI comes along and machines get smarter.
Wow.
I mean, he really believes that.
Well, a lot of people do. There's a lot of people that do.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a thing.
Yeah, I mean, like he's talking about, having some kind of interface going to your brain that helps you keep up and think faster and, giving you that ability to tap into the artificial intelligence so that humans have as an advantage along with all these incredibly smart machines that they're going to be making.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's transhumanism.
Yeah.
And basically, and there's a huge following. It's a huge following that is all about this, and it's scary.
It is very scary.
It's absolutely scary to most people.
Right.
Most people aren't me. I would be first in line.
Would you?
Yeah. It's like, can you transfer my consciousness, please? Now.
So do you want like a machine body, or do you want to be in a machine? Like your consciousness in a computer, or do you want like
I want a machine body.
Machine body?
Yeah, I want to still have fingers and hands, and
I gotcha.
I
gotcha. Just wired brain.
Right.
Well, he was still talking about that this would be a long way off, obviously, but that one of the most immediate threats is how they're making the self-driving cars now, that kind of thing, and how he feels like people that drive as a career are all going to be out of work. And so that led into this, people are not going to be able to keep up with technology and so on and so on. So
yeah, they're going to have to make them that don't crash first.
Yeah, I think the self-driving cars are a lot further away than people seem to think.
Well, I mean, I hate it.
Yeah.
There's a certain joy and love
in driving.
Right. There's a certain passion for that you feel when you put your hand on that gear shift and you just let out your aggressions on a backcountry road.
Right.
Let the leaves blow under your. It would be something different if you weren't the one doing it. I don't know. I just don't like it. You know what? I like to control certain things, and I'm all about technology. That's fine. That's great. And I don't really care that they spy. I don't care that they listen. It's fine. If they want to listen, they can listen. They're going to hear basically what they're hearing right now at all times.
Pretty much.
So, we already put ourselves out there. But don't take away that. Don't take away my car. Don't take away my ability to have fun and release. I don't know. I hate that.
Well, I still think it's pretty far away myself. So, all right, well, let's move on. So let's talk about Kyrie Irving.
Okay, let's do that.
Yes, let's talk about Kyrie Irving. And he was on a podcast called NBA's Road Trippin' with RJ and Channing. And this was like on Thursday, like February 16th, he was on there.
Right.
And during this podcast, he actually said that the earth was flat and that it was right in front of us, and that they're lying to us, that the earth is he is a flat earther.
Right. Yeah. And, before, instantly everybody was like appalled, and they were all laughing and
and he was an instant news story.
Right. Instant news story
everywhere.
And actually I've seen people like LeBron coming out and saying, you know what? Who knows?
Yeah.
It's
actually a lot of the basketball players, like his teammates and
Right.
friends and stuff, all came out and were like, you know what? Like one guy was like, I've not read enough about it, so if that's what he thinks, There you go. I'm not going to go against him.
And that's the same with most of us. You know, it's one of those things that we always scoff at, but personally, I don't believe it. Okay, personally, I don't think that flat Earth is possible and all that good stuff. I don't believe they hoaxed the moon landing.
Right.
You know, I believe they hid stuff from us from the moon landing.
Right.
But I do believe the moon landing occurred.
Right.
You know, it's stuff like that I don't buy the flat Earth deal. But I also don't condemn it. You know, I have personally not been in space and seen the round Earth.
This is true.
You know, there's questions I have that they have an answer for every one of them. How can you circumference? You know, how can you go around and sail around the Earth? And they've got answers for all that stuff. You know, which you do when you're developing an argument, you better have an answer, right?
Now, me personally, I've not really listened to enough of it to make a judgment. Personally, I don't think that the Earth is flat, but then again, I don't have all the facts about
Here's
everything.
my thing. I know that I've seen people take pictures and they've shown, you know, they were at a high point and they were like, you know, where's the curve? I've seen the curve before. Like, I don't know if it's just me or what, but I've looked out before and could see it just wasn't the way you would imagine it if it was flat. Right. It just doesn't jive with me. I don't know. I believe gravity is real. The flat earthers don't believe gravity is true.
Right.
You know, it's just all lies.
Well, I guess if you're all on a flat surface, you don't really need gravity.
Now, I'll tell you what, I will buy hollow earth.
Right.
I'll at least buy the fact that we have no clue what's in the middle of this place.
Yeah, because we really don't.
Don't.
There could be a hollow earth in there.
I mean, they found out from digging that hole, you know, in Russia or wherever, the longest hole they've ever dug and all that crap, that it's a lot further than they thought. You know, no idea.
No idea.
So we don't know. I mean, it's the thing with the questions, and later in the show, we'll talk about something about oceans again. I mean, we don't know. We don't know anything.
Well, something I thought was funny is the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver. He came out. I think somebody asked him about it, and he said that Kyrie Irving was trying to be provocative, and that he thought he was very effective at it, and that it was a larger comment on this so-called fake news thing that was going on. So he was trying to play it off like Kyrie Irving was making a political, you know, trying to make a point,
right?
That kind of thing. And later on, when somebody talked to Kyrie Irving again, I don't know that he said that that's what he was doing, but he did mention that he thought it was really funny that out of everything that he said on that podcast, that's what people took and ran with.
Yeah, well,
so
that's how it happens. I mean, you know, not to name names, but you know, a lot of people that I follow have stuff taken out of context from them all the time.
Yeah.
And used against them.
Well, if you take like if you just take one little sentence, I mean,
can you imagine what they could do to me? I mean, off
just off our shows, especially.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even have to dig that far.
Well, think about some of the stuff you said on the third side when we were joking about some of those stories. And if they just took one little sentence out of
Venezuelan wood oil,
one of your jokes.
Is that what you were thinking?
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
You know, that could be misconstrued.
Yeah.
Very easily.
And if you don't know about that story, let me just tell you real funny. This is a funny thing. So I was just being funny, but they found this poor Venezuelan woman dead in her home. And you know, Stacy was doing the story as always. And it would have been a long time.
There was something weird about the story.
Yeah,
I don't remember
something
what it was.
very weird. It wasn't just found in a body.
Yeah.
But when they pulled her up, she had been there so long that it had actually, you know, stained the wood in that particular part, you know, that they couldn't do anything about. And I said, well, you know what you could do is you could get a lot of, get like 10 or 20 other Venezuelan dead women and just lay them on the floor for a given amount of time.
So it matches. So the floor finally matches.
And so then we came up with the Venezuelan wood oil, you know, a treatment for your floors there.
We got there somehow. I'm sure.
I don't even.
It was all you.
Yeah, I don't really know how we got there. There you go. Another reason to go listen to the third side, folks.
Well, in all seriousness, now I don't know. After all this has happened, I don't know if Kyrie Irving really still thinks the world's flat, or if he was really trying to make some kind of statement. But I will say that if he is a flat Earth believer, and he came out and said it. Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him for sticking
Yeah.
to his guns. If that's really what he believed. And he did say that he wanted people to go research it.
Yeah.
That he didn't, he wasn't going to sit there and explain it. That he's like, this is what I think. Just go do some research for yourself. And we tell people that all the time. We're
All the
like,
time.
this is what we think. And, you need to go do this research and decide for yourself.
The problem is right now, we've reached this impasse. And, the old Guns N' Roses song at the first of it that was taken from a movie, actually, of, what we have here is a failure to communicate. And it really is.
Right.
The problem is nobody wants to listen to an opinion that differs from theirs.
Right.
And I blame the internet, because what happens on the internet? If there's something you don't want to listen to, it's a click. You click it off, right?
Right.
You click away and you're done. You don't have to listen to it. Back when we were growing up, when we were just little kids and you didn't even have a remote control, some of us had remote controls, whatever, still yet, you had to pretty much listen to the opinion that was on that channel, right?
Right.
And this is a weird way to draw this together or think that it all is because of this, but I swear it makes sense.
Okay.
The new generation, or the millennials, which I love the millennials, and I disagree with everybody who says that they're lazy and all this stuff. I think that they're working circles around us in different ways.
Right. It's just a different type of
It's
work that needs to be done.
And if we don't if you don't understand it and get on board, then you're going to get left behind. That's all I've got to say about that. But I really do believe that we're in this click society where we're used to clicking. I mean, just think about the dating apps. You swipe, one way to take them and one way to throw them away. I mean, that's just the world we're in. So unfortunately, when we have real human communication, we feel that we can just, no, and we can just swipe that away. That's not how we learn. That's not how we grow. And, even me, when I was younger, I tried to shut stuff down. And now I am very willing to listen to a counterpoint or admit that I'm wrong. And
I'll agree with that statement.
It's a lot different.
Yes, I'll agree that you're more open to that now. I mean, I know, like when we first met, I mean, we always talked and you always listened to me, but you weren't. I feel like you weren't as apt to believe my point of view or even take it into consideration. I mean, we were young. Of course, now you're completely opposite of that.
I mean, and the thing about that, and just to be vulnerable on it, I didn't have respect for anyone else.
Right.
I didn't have respect for anyone else. And you can't go through like that. And we've got a lot of that going on in the world right now. We really do. We really need to, not to make this a political statement, but because we don't do that, but we really need to start listening to counterpoints. And we need to start listening to, even if we don't believe it, or if we don't adopt or change our beliefs, it still doesn't hurt to listen to what that other person believes in.
Right. It's okay to have different points of view. I mean, that's okay.
Absolutely. Debate is a really fun thing to do. When you've got two people are not going to catch each other on fire or try to shoot each other.
Right.
If you can sit respectfully and debate with somebody, it might even get heated.
Yep.
But it has to. What happens is have you ever seen two guys get in a fist fight? And
occasionally.
Yeah. What happens after the fist fight's over?
Oh, they're usually best friends.
Best friends. Yeah. Hugging, hey bro,
they
I
have
love you.
more respect for each other because they saw what each other could do.
Right, exactly. Yes. They solved it. And I think the world needs a little bit more of that, as opposed to, one person trying to just shut the other person down.
Not fist fighting per se, but no. The back and forth.
You know what? Some fist fights probably wouldn't hurt things.
All right, well, let's move on. So this story is about the scientists that found the microbes in the cave in Mexico, and they revived them even though they were like 10,000 years old.
I think I've seen something about the Crystal Cave, right?
Yes, the one that has all the big crystals in it. It's really pretty. It's a really harsh environment.
You can't even stay in there very long.
No. And that's one of the reasons why they go there and look for things like this, because it's a super harsh environment.
I would love to go there and just kind of get my... psychedelic on.
Well, it's Mexico's Naiza Mountain Caves, I think is what they're actually called. And they found these microbes inside shafts of gypsum. and they were able to extract the microbes, which they estimate had been there between 10,000 and 50,000 years.
So they don't have a freaking clue.
Not exactly. And so they just say that it's 10,000.
10,000 and 50,000 is a pretty big gap.
It is, but at least they're kind of estimating
at
low.
least 10,000.
Yeah.
That's great.
So what they've done is they were able to revive them in a lab.
So the what?
Yeah. So now microbes, if you don't know, are single-celled organisms. They're very tiny. Like they're so tiny that millions of them can fit in the eye of the needle. And, microbes are everywhere. There's all different types. There's, regular ones and there's bacteria. I mean,
Right.
they're important. But these are ones that they have not figured out. They're not closely related to anything in the known genetic database. So these particular microbes, they don't know what they are.
Wow. And we reanimated them.
And they reanimated them. Yes, that's kind of my thought. I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea.
This creepy ass crystal cave.
Right.
We find microbes. We figure out we have no idea about them in our current knowledge of what exists and what doesn't exist. And we reanimate these. Is this the beginning of a zombie movie?
I mean, it could be. It's the beginning of something.
I mean, come on. I mean, everybody's like, I think people want the zombie outbreak.
You can just picture it in the lab with like all the big outfits on and the sealed doors and saying, do not enter.
I could see it starting right now, and it has that name and in Mexico, and it's got, ching, 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 Can you not? And then it goes to
I can. That's why I'm laughing. I can absolutely. It's like a 70s B movie or something.
And except the microbe would actually start moving. You would see it somehow, and
right.
Take over the guys, and
some guy in the lab will knock it over with his elbow and
like
get it on his shirt or something.
Some guy turns into a zombie in the cave, and then they kill that guy, and they're like, "Nah, let's not worry about that. Let's take
that was nothing.
Let's take these back." And come on. And of course, the zombie invasion starts with Mexicans.
I just think it's funny. I don't know exactly what they mean by it. They said they are not very closely related to anything in the known genetic database. So are they a little bit closely related?
Dude, I love Mexico. I mean, they've got so many cool things.
They do.
They seriously do. It's I mean, I want the Crystal Cave. I want that here.
It would be cool to see. It would be cool to see.
There are actually a lot of crystals around where we're at, but this is crazy. What do you think about this? What's your feelings on the fact of the microbe that they have no idea about?
Well, my feelings are that maybe they shouldn't have reanimated it until they knew a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, it's probably not dangerous, but the potential for it to be is there. And it makes me curious to wonder how it got there and why it was sealed in these crystals. We know that there's been life here before, life here, before our life. What if these were harmful and they were sealed in that cave on purpose?
Yeah, that's the whole reason.
So that people wouldn't touch them. It's the harshest climate on Earth. People aren't supposed to go down there and take things.
Or maybe it's like the Fortress of Solitude. And that's, that was from that was like our DNA bank from a civilization long ago.
Right.
And they sealed all their DNA in crystals because they were more advanced than us.
Perhaps.
And pretty soon we'll have a little dude with a cape flying around our sun.
Well, that's a positive.
There you go.
I think. But anyway, I don't know what they plan on doing now with this. Like, right. I don't know what the plan is going forward, or if they're just gonna, publish this as their discovery and that's it.
Well, surely they're gonna do something with it.
I'm sure they're gonna run all kinds of tests on it and try to figure out what it is, give it a funny name,
Put it in a monkey.
Oh God, please don't put it in a monkey. That's where the horror movie just goes to.
They put everything in a monkey.
Poor monkeys.
I know.
All right, so let's move on. So here's a story about the new continent, Zealandia.
Yes. Even though it sounds like a really crappy comedy movie, this is crazy. Go ahead. Yeah. It's crazy.
Okay, so
it's nuts.
This is a huge landmass that's almost entirely submerged in the Southwest Pacific. So it's not that you've never seen it.
Right.
Okay. You've seen the highest of its mountains, the bits of the highest of its mountains showing above the water.
Right.
That is New Zealand.
Right.
So apparently New Zealand is just the top of this huge landmass that's underwater.
Wow.
And there are people that have been working for decades trying to get this landmass as a continent, like to be considered the 8th continent.
Or something like that.
Yeah, and they call it Zealandia.
Right.
I think maybe if they had given it a better name, it may have got in there quicker.
I mean, absolutely. Like Middle Earth.
Right. So New Zealand's it's like New Zealand's North and South Islands and then New Caledonia. Those are the parts of the landmass that show above the water, the parts that we can see. And there was a paper published in the Geological Society of America's Journal, and it says that Zealandia measures 5 million square kilometers and is about 2/3 of neighboring Australia.
So do you think this was flooded like after the Ice Age, or?
I don't have that part. I don't know how they think it got underwater, but apparently 94% of it is underwater.
Wow.
With only the few little bits.
That's crazy.
Above the surface. Yeah. That's crazy. So I don't know if they'll ever get it to be recognized as a continent.
Well, I would think to be recognized as a continent. I'm sorry. But I think that it would have had to have been not submerged at some point.
Well, that's what some people think. As a matter of fact, this article even says that you might think that being above water is one of the criteria, but it's really not. Like, they listed some of the criteria that they use to determine if a landmass is a continent. And one of them is like elevation above the surrounding area, a distinctive geology, a well-defined area, and a crust thicker than the regular ocean floor. It doesn't say you actually have to be above the ocean.
There's amendments for a reason.
Mm-hmm. True.
Keep your crappy continent. It's, you know what that is? That's the ocean floor.
Well, it realizes, it might not be, but.
No, it's cool. It's very cool. And especially if the fact that it sank for some reason, or that it, something happened, some cataclysm, or that they could find stuff down there. It's really cool.
It is cool. I didn't realize that New Zealand was just the top of a huge landmass.
No.
I just thought it was like its own little, it's
probably one of the most beautiful areas in the entire world, on the entire planet. It's behind like Iceland for me, but it's
a shame to think that there's all that land underneath the water that could be just as beautiful.
Yeah.
If it weren't below the water.
Well, that's why we have Ireland too. So
I suppose. All right. Well, let's move on. So let's talk about some UFO sightings that have been going on.
Ooh. Let's do it.
All right. So let's talk about this one that just happened recently, where there are 5 different videos of the same UFO sighting.
This is fantastic.
Yes. So this happened over Kuwait.
Yes.
And if you watch the video, basically what you have is one very bright circle, and then there's another that starts out bright, but it kind of goes away.
Well, it kind of puffs something out too.
Yeah, and then it kind of moves away and you can't see it anymore.
Right.
But the cool thing about this is it's not just one video.
Right.
There are 5 different videos, different angles, different people,
right,
all seeing the same thing.
Right.
And so they all of them were uploaded. It's actually really cool, and I will link to a lot of these different videos. But something else that's interesting about this same UFO sighting is the same type of UFO was seen in Iran.
Yeah, which is next door neighbors, basically.
Yes, and I think it was the same night.
Yeah, same night.
The same night. And there's a video of that too, and it does look similar.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
It's very cool.
Yes.
Just anytime you have multiple sightings like that, it's hard to corroborate that stuff because it is Kuwait, unfortunately, and even some of the video footage is not, HD, 1080, whatever.
Right.
But still, yet it's 5. I mean, there's 5 of them, dude. That's it's really cool.
And you really can see it. I mean, it's not.
It's worth going and taking a look at.
Yeah. Well, another UFO sighting that happened recently that actually had a lot of witnesses and more than one video was a UFO that was during an air show in Chile.
Right.
And I know we love the UFO stuff from Chile.
Oh, I love anything Chilean.
Yeah. So what this video is there's a video of a jet flying up in the air. Like I said, it's an air show. So lots of people are looking in the air.
Right.
And it's flying straight up. And when you watch the video, as you see the jet fly up, this white, light or something, it comes shooting through the picture and it gets kind of close to the jet.
It gets in between the plumage or it gets the exhaust and the plane.
Yeah, and it just kind of comes at a downward angle and goes off the left. And it doesn't look like anything I mean, like sometimes you can say, oh, that looks like a bird or that looks like a bat. No, it just looks like it's a UFO.
We're definitely on an uptick. We're on an uptick of the weird and the strange, and we'll get back to the same stories, but I will tell you, even the mysterious booms that we always cover.
Right.
There's been a huge uptick since the start of the year. I mean, not that they ever went away.
Right.
But I mean, everywhere from San Diego, Washington State, Connecticut, I keep up with them all the time. We could do a story every week on them. I don't choose to do that. I would rather let them build up and talk about it like twice a year. But, there's no explanation. There's still no explanation. And you know what? There still is nothing of a mainstream news coverage.
Right.
There's still no mainstream news coverage. It's still all your local yokels that are saying, hey, welcome to Channel 5 News, and there's a mysterious boom shaking the area, and you'll hear it maybe 2 days, then it's done. And so yeah, that's also on an uptick.
Yes.
UFOs are on an uptick. Weird crap's on an uptick. Something's going on.
Well, this particular one at the air show was actually videoed by 3 different people, and of course, all the people there at the air show. There was several eyewitnesses. So I thought that one was really cool. I'm hoping that the government in Chile investigates this one. I mean, it'll take a couple years, but I'm hoping that they get a hold of this footage and that they do their investigation on it, because
I wonder if there's any kind of cam on the plane.
I don't know, but I think it was.
Yeah, it was going.
It was
up.
behind the plane, I think. So I don't know that it would have had a camera on it, but it was really interesting. Like I thought it was interesting enough to talk about it anyway. Okay, so let's talk about this other UFO sighting, the UFO fleet.
This is my favorite.
That flew past the International Space Station.
This is my favorite. Now, this happens a lot. Anybody who's in ufology, and call it ufology, don't call it UFOlogy. It's just my personal preference. Please do this. If you listen to the show, ufology makes a lot more sense for me. Anyway, anybody who follows ufology, they know that there is a lot of, space station, the live cam, people monitor it. And every time something flies by, they famously cut the feed to the control center.
Right.
And if you're trying to hide something, okay, don't cut the feed. You probably don't even pay attention. Like, the best way to find these things is record it for 24 hours, fast forward, and every time you see the control center, rewind
and see what happened. That is actually a good idea. Well, in this particular one, you can see the space station, and then past it, like going behind it, it's like 6 lights, all in perfect formation, just slowly fly past the space station. And you can actually see all 6 of them. They actually almost get all the way across, and then the feed gets cut. Right. It's like the guy was sleeping a little bit, and it's like, oh, crap.
In the past, they've said space dust. In the past, they've said debris. They've said reflections. They said there's no way. On this one, there's no way at all. I don't know when this footage was actually captured. I know when Street Cap 1, who is the YouTube channel who posts this usually, he posts this on February 15th.
Right.
So I don't know when he captured this,
right,
but regardless,
he would have had to have time to go through it and stuff.
Regardless, this is NASA. This is NASA's own camera on the space station, and I mean it's amazing. You have to come to go to Street Cap 1 and look at it, or go to Paranormal Sideshow where it's linked.
Yes.
Go check this out. Actually, go to Paranormal Sideshow where it's linked. But I mean, it's this one. I watch these all the time. You know that. I probably spend 3 hours a day watching videos at night, and it's one of those things where I watch nonstop to see what people have uploaded from everywhere. This one got me.
It did me too. And one thing that you mentioned that I think some other people mentioned also, but you mentioned it to me first, was that they were in such perfect formation that maybe it's not separate ships. Maybe it's one humongous ship with just certain lights in certain areas. Especially
where I've seen 2 lights. And now I think there might have been, the straggler. I believe there was a significant straggler. It's like, come on, Leon. There was one way behind, maybe 3-4 seconds.
Right.
But there was one of the first ones. There was a one up, like 2 lights.
Right.
And it was almost the perfect triangle that you would see. The one in front of that was a little off, but 2 lights, man, it looked like the way they're going together.
Yeah.
It really looked like it was one
Well,
ship.
I mean, all the lights stayed exactly the same
They
distance
did.
away from each other that they were when you first saw them. And, you know, it didn't look like space debris. Space debris is not going to stay in perfect formation
Not
like that, I don't think. And it was very big, but it was really interesting. And
Yeah.
it is interesting that they cut the feed and they didn't say anything. They didn't say we're having difficulty or anything. It just went to the control room. And that
I don't
was
know.
it.
I believe space debris probably would stay in the same.
Well, maybe.
Don't you think it would? Maybe because there's
Maybe.
no way for it to go anywhere.
It was just so perfectly aligned.
Yeah, this was weird.
It was weird.
This was really strange. I mean, and it was also cutting across, you know, and going toward the Earth. I just man, that it's just nuts. I mean, and there's so much good evidence out there. There's just so much good evidence. I can't. It's almost hard to be skeptical. You know, it's
Right.
There's just so much stuff out there. But anyway,
I mean, I guess you could, if you're skeptical enough, you can explain anything away,
yeah.
I suppose.
And still, yet my problem with all of these channels is, and I'm not talking about the Street Cap, you know, channel, but I'm just talking about all these channels in general. They put up really good evidence, but then they put up really bad evidence or bad opinions
Right.
of evidence.
Right.
If you've got something that looks like, and we've talked about this before, but if it looks like Abraham Lincoln's head on Mars in a
Right.
rock, maybe show the rock and say, this is an odd looking rock. We thought we would show you this one, but don't put Abe Lincoln's head caught on rock. You know, just a thought.
Right.
I think we should show everything, but you know, and I still think that anybody who fakes anything should be drawn and quartered by Shetland ponies.
Right. Well, you know,
I don't want to kill
mean,
them. I just want to cause severe discomfort.
They have people, the government hires people to put stupid, ridiculous things out, disinformation
Yeah.
to make everything else discredited. So you never know when you're looking at something that someone genuinely put or something
Well,
that
I know
was
there's a
made
lot
up.
of stuff we don't talk about on here. There's a lot of things, not that we shy away from it, but if we think that it looks hokey,
Right.
you know, unless we want to make fun of it.
Right.
But we
right.
try not to bring you guys anything that is explainable at all. You know, we try to bring you the absolute best that we can find.
That's true. Okay, so I'm going to move on to this next story. This story is going to get your ire up.
Oh, no.
Yes.
I'm in such a good mood, too.
Well, I just want to talk about it. So this is about a UFO sighting that was in Denver at the Winter Park ski area. Okay, so somebody caught something unusual on camera, and it was posted to Facebook. And so the local station, Denver's KUSA, picked up the story about the UFO. And, you know, you talk about all the time how they play the X-Files music, and they kind of, this is so much worse. This is so much worse. So what happened is, and I'll link to the news story. When the news story starts, you can hear them talking about it in the studio, and they're laughing. They're already laughing about the fact that somebody has put on this odd video on the internet somewhere and said, I caught this and it looks like a UFO. Okay. So they dispatched one of their field reporters, his name's Matt Renault, to the Winter Park ski area. And he meets with the PR director for the ski area. So he goes into his office. The PR director's wearing a tinfoil hat.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're talking, and this guy's saying that, of course, there was a UFO because they know that aliens really love the snow. And that, you know, that of course they would come fly there and all this stuff. I mean, just basically pushing the ski place, but making fun of this UFO thing. And there was another thing on the internet talking about how that area, there's an underground alien base because it's Colorado. There's the mountains.
Right,
I think
right.
there's that conspiracy out there somewhere. And so they made fun of that
The
too.
airport. Yeah.
Yeah, they made fun of that too, saying that, you know, that of course it could have been going in and out to this underground alien space place because there are a lot of people that have a second home there, you know, that sort of thing. So then it continues, and the news reporter is outside, and he is doing all kinds of stuff. He's got a lightsaber. He puts his own tinfoil hat on. He does this thing where they use graphics to beam himself down in skis and stuff, like he's an alien, and he says like nanu nanu. I mean, just the gambit, the whole gambit. And just totally made fun of the whole thing.
Wow.
And now I looked at the video, and it's probably not a UFO. I mean, it's probably like a bag or, you know, a bird or something. But instead of, if they're picking up story, instead of doing the story and like actually legitimately asking an expert or somebody that maybe looks at those videos
Right.
a lot, or, you know, somebody that might have some kind of...
Or even a videographer that would be in the studio.
Exactly. Somebody that has, instead of going that route and saying,
No,
they just totally made fun of it.
They shamed the whole community.
Yes.
And that's all that is.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think the person that found it was actually somebody, they were looking at a camera to study something or something like that. It was, it was someone who monitored the cloud seeding and noticed on the town webcam this black dot. So they weren't trying to go out there and find something. You know, they just happened to see something weird and they posted it online.
And they'll never do it again.
Yeah.
And any kids that were watching that will never do it again. And this is exactly this. These are the people that have been conditioned. These are the people who make fun of people. And, you know, I had this discussion earlier today with somebody, somebody that in a place I was at, I was talking about the NASA discovery, and there was a well-educated person where I was at, and he was talking back to me, and he knew all about exoplanets. He was all excited about it. And then he asked me, he goes, "Have you ever watched Ancient Aliens?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." You know, and I started going into the books. I was like, "Have you ever actually read the books?" You know,
right?
And so he had. Well, somebody overheard the conversation and just starts absolutely tearing it apart, you know, laughing about it and all this stuff. So I tore this guy down. I just tore him to pieces about how much research he's done, about, you know, how much he knows about this, how much and obviously he knew nothing.
Right.
And at all.
Right.
Knew absolutely nothing. And but he believes in Bigfoot. I'm not saying that Bigfoot's not real. I'm just saying,
right.
You know,
if you're going to believe in that supernatural thing, you can't really discount anything else.
Which he said, well, it's a you know, a hominid, or, you know, he was just going out, you know, why couldn't that be? Well, you know, how much do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and why would you? There was a big age difference between these two people too.
Of course.
So this kid was probably 20, and this guy was 40, and I was just like, why do you do that to a kid that's, you know, wanting to discuss something, and he's very excited, his eyes lit up, and I've seen this kid before. He's not ever, you know, been like that. So it's very cool.
Yeah. So I'll link to this news story. You can watch it if you want to, but yeah, it was I was not happy with that.
You know, actually, the weird thing is, I had 2 discussions today about the same thing, and it just now dawned on me that happened. It was another discussion in another place I was at about the NASA thing, and there was somebody there who interjected in the conversation, but they didn't make fun of it.
Right.
But it happened at 2 different places.
That's strange.
And it was similar because it was a young guy and an older guy. And that's weird. It didn't even dawn on me till just now.
Patterns.
Something's going on.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. Basically, I don't want to go off about that.
Right.
We know, everybody who listens to this is educated enough to know, you know, it's ridiculous to actually think that we are alone in this universe with all the things we are finding day after day after day.
Right.
The smartest minds on this planet. Let's just pretend for a second that aliens have not made themselves known to our higher ups.
Okay.
Let's just throw that out there.
Okay.
Still yet, the top minds of every university, of every scientific community, all support the fact that they believe there's life in the universe,
right?
Other than us, that it's a mathematical impossibility for there not to be. So, you know, it's one of those things that if it's your religious standpoint that you don't believe there's any other life, then I completely respect that. You know, but I do disagree. But there's a difference in disagreeing and shaming someone. Shaming is not okay in any shape or form.
Well, I hated the way they handled it. You know, if they didn't have to do the story. Do you know what I mean?
It's just like the fact, when do we get called by TV stations?
Oh yeah, when it's something
Halloween.
Oh yeah, Halloween, definitely. They want that. They all want that ghost story for Halloween or whatever.
Every year.
That's true.
The only time that they want us on the show, you know, we went on like a week before Halloween, and that's when we do our events, because that's the time people, you know. But that's the time the news station wants that, and they play the creepy music, and you know, I don't know. It's just the way the world is, I guess.
I suppose. Well, anyway, shame on them. Okay, so I just got a couple more stories here that I thought I would mention because I thought they were kind of cool. This first one is about the new artificial intelligence that Google is working on. Mm-hmm. It's called DeepMind AI system.
Oh, God.
And they were testing it. They were testing it with some little computer games. And they found out that the AI learned to become highly aggressive during the games in order to win.
Yeah.
Which does not sound good to me at all.
That's not good. That is terminate the program now.
Yes. Well, supposedly it was some kind of game where there was two AIs, and they had to collect apples. And as long as there was lots of apples, it was fine. But when it got down to just a few apples left, the person who had more won, they would shoot lasers at each other to knock the other one away from the apples. And they eventually learned that if they shot early and disabled the other person, they could go ahead and get more apple. Like, it was learning at its finest, I suppose, but not in the way you would want it to.
Well, at least they're exactly like humans,
I suppose. But so, they were like, well, we got some more work cut out for us because, essentially they could have shared the apples. That was an option.
Yeah. If they want them to be, super intelligent, then violence is going to be part of it. And that's the scary part. But if you want them to actually make decisions and you want them to be free thinking,
right,
and have a choice, right? That's part of the universe.
It is.
And that there's going to be bad choices.
Right.
There just is. I don't believe it's possible. People talk about us reaching this enlightenment, okay? Reaching this plateau where there's no racism, where there's no hate, there's no crime, because we've evolved to this point. I don't believe it's possible. And I hate that. I do hate that on some of the things. I would like to see racism go away.
Right.
I would like to see the day. I do believe the day will come when that is no longer something that happens. I believe that universal language will someday happen. And the reason for this is because of computers. Right. Okay, so we all talk on the internet. We could talk. We got friends all over the world. That was not possible just not that long ago. And a lot of, we learn each other's languages, and there's a butchered version of the languages. And, so I do believe a lot of that stuff's possible. And I do believe eventually bigots will be gone, hopefully.
Hopefully.
But, as far as not having conflict, I think that's a pipe dream. I don't think that we'll ever get to that point.
Well, no. Where it's the whole thing about debate and not everybody thinking the same.
Right,
Gotta
right.
have conflict.
So I'm not as scared about that as some people are.
Right.
Did they have to have lasers designed in that already? Yeah. That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, they had the lasers. They put them in there.
Okay, so they had the lasers.
Right.
That's just brains.
Yeah, to use it, if you had it, use your tools.
Right.
I agree. Now, it did say that when they used less intelligent AIs, like smaller systems, that they didn't become aggressive. They just shared the apples.
Yeah, because they're morons.
The more aggressive ones.
Yeah, the smart ones.
Right. Learned how to get it for themselves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. If we run out of food and there's an apple tree and there was a lot of apples there and me and the neighbor were gathering apples and we were running out of apples and my family was hungry, then I'm going to pick up a wrench and I'm going to bash his skull in and I'm going to take all his apples. You know what I mean? And go in his house and take the ones.
He's not going to need them anyway.
Right.
He's bashed his skull in with a wrench.
I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, on the flip side of that, they also put them in another game where they had to cooperate to win, and they did. They learned that they had to cooperate, and they cooperated in order to win the game.
So they treat the AI like monkeys as well.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
And they just feel, I guess what they learned is that they have to be careful with their programming.
You know what's bad?
What's that?
Is when the monkeys decide to team up with the AI.
Yeah.
Because that's just, now that's my movie. And they could find a microbe in Mexico.
What is it when monkeys merge with machines? It's not transhumanism. It's trans-monkeyism.
Yeah, something like that.
Is that right? All right. Well, let's just mention this last story because this is just kind of cool. It's about that orange alligator that they spotted in South Carolina.
Yes. We didn't do that. This story got left on the cutting room floor a couple of weeks ago.
It did. And we weren't going to actually do it, but they have just recently found a second orange alligator in North Carolina.
Wow.
So that makes it interesting. And what it is people have said that the reason the alligator was that color was that maybe he spent the winter in a rusty pipe. Or, I mean, they don't really know.
Yeah, they don't know.
They're just making assumptions.
Shoot him!
They're just making assumptions.
Shoot him, Clint.
And they said that he would shed his skin and return to his normal color soon. I don't know that
They
that's
don't know that
happened.
either.
No, but now a second orange alligator in Calabash, North Carolina, instead of South Carolina, has been spotted. So it's weird. I mean, they've never seen orange alligators before, and all of a sudden, the same month, there's two.
Yeah, it's really strange.
I think that's really weird.
Orange is, I didn't even know that was a possibility of, I don't know. That's strange. Especially
strange.
when you think about the fact they're prehistoric. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like alligators and crocodiles, they've been around.
You would think over the course of how long, like you said, alligators have been around, that there would have been some point in time that an alligator slept in a rusty pipe and turned orange before.
Right.
Like this shouldn't be the first time and two in the same month. So I don't think that that's the reason.
Once again, patterns.
Radiation. That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm going radiation.
Well, there is a lot of radiation right now.
So I don't know.
I don't know.
But anyway.
Anyway, it's interesting.
It is. Okay, so that's all the news.
Well, it was great. Thank you. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did, because we really did enjoy it. It was a lot of crazy news and a lot of space news. A lot of, the only thing we didn't have was a ghost.
I know. I didn't have a single ghost story.
Out of the whole show.
Well, we did have our story at the beginning.
There you go.
And it was weird. So
See,
that kind of classifies.
That's why I love having you around. You always bring out the one positive out of the whole situation. So
There you go.
I hope that we still were able to creep you out a little bit and learn you something, as I always say. ParanormalSideshow.com. That's where you go to find all the links to today's stories that Stacy went over. A lot of cool stuff that we talked about, including like the fleet of UFOs. You need to go there just to see that. Facebook.com/ParanormalSideshow. That's where you go to, be on Facebook. On the Twitter. It is at Sideshow97. Folks, go there, join us, have some fun, watch some fighting, whatever we're doing. We tweet about it. So Instagram, hot damn, it's John and Stacey Edwards. And on YouTube, as we talked about in depth, Paranormal Sideshow is your address. Go there, check it out, watch some of our old documentaries, watch some cool videos, listen to some EVPs, and you can also listen to this right there. For my lovely wife, Stacy, my name's John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.